Hey, Richard, some complaints from downstairs that there's no hot water.
Well, I took it out just to show you.
You think?
Now, most people make the decision about their water heater when the existing one leaks and they only have 24 hours to get it changed.
It's always an emergency, right?
So I thought we'd just take a few minutes just to go over the choices that are available to most people for hot water heating. This is the standard in America. This is a gas-fired tank-type water heater. We see the tank on the outside. A couple of notable things on the outside. One, you'll know the gallons that it gives you are in the tank,
50.
But also the first hour rating, what they allege you can get out of the tank in that first hour.
So that's more than 50, right?
83.
83.
On the front, you'll see a thermostatic control here down to a gas burner that sits underneath. Here's the drain, which every tank has. And when you look inside,
This always amazes me.
this is not a brand new unit.
No.
So the burner's underneath, and the flue products come up through this flue passage pipe right here and goes up into the chimney here. And this is on all the time, okay? Now it has an important device right here, which is called a dip tube, a tube that lets cold water come down to the bottom of the tank so it doesn't dilute all that tank. Hot water leaves this way, cold water comes down this way.
That's the supply line, right?
And with no burner on, you can get about 66%, about 2/3 of this tank before it goes cold from this dilution, okay?
Right.
There's also something, this is inside of every glass-lined steel tank like this. This is what this anode rod's supposed to look like. Here's what it looks like after a little while. This is sacrificial.
Okay.
Right, so maintenance, there's not much to do. One would be to draw off a little bit of hot water, because anytime you have lime, sediment, or scale in your water, it wants to bond to the hottest surface it can find, which is either here, but generally it's right down the bottom here.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, gas-fired. Electric is very similar, except it doesn't have any direct burner, but it does have two electrical elements inside of it. They're right here. These are usually around 4,500 watts, and these are just like the elements that are inside your instant coffee machine. All right, it has the same dip tube, it has the anode rod inside this.
But it doesn't have the flue, as you say,
Correct.
because no gas,
Right.
we're getting the heat from
So
the
it
electric.
keeps the heat in better than this does, okay?
Right.
But it's also electricity and straight resistance, and so it's spinning all the time. Again, you can draw off the bottom. Right here you can see there's a little thermostat and sensor right here, and your elements at top and bottom.
Got it. Okay.
Now, there's clearly a trend to move away from this because of the inefficiency of a straight resistance electric element like
We
this.
don't really like resistance heating.
Correct. And so this is an interesting combination. It's an electric tank down the bottom, but on top is the equivalent of an air conditioner or a dehumidifier. So it's called a hybrid heat pump water heater. So now when it's on, it pulls heat from around the surrounding area, in the garage or in the basement or wherever it's located, and takes that heat that it can find and delivers it efficiently down into the tank. A couple of byproducts. One is it's more efficient by a long shot, by probably another 25 to 30% over this, but it also dehumidifies the space and uses that heat that's around it to good use into the water.
And like all heat pumps, this is run off of electricity. And I notice we've got this same cover
Right.
here on the front.
Right.
So there is an element in here
There is
too?
a backup, and that's going to be held off. If it can do it with the heat pump, it's going to do it with the heat pump, and this is just there to make sure you don't get a cold shower.
Okay, and so the name says it all, right? Tank type.
type.
So there's a tank of water, and it's always being warmed
Correct.
or heated,
It
significantly.
is on 24/7, 365. This is the way it's done predominantly in the United States.
Right.
Okay? In the rest of the planet, fuel's been more expensive for a longer period of time. So in most of Asia, this is how it's done with an instant, and more in this country too, an instantaneous or tankless water heater. Okay?
Obviously, no tank, small
Correct.
little device
All right,
here.
So this sits on the wall, cold water comes in, the hot water line comes out here, and if you're not using any hot water, it's off. But when you open the hot water faucet upstairs, it feels the drop in pressure, brings the burner on, the burner modulates, and makes that burner keep up and make that hot water come out of your faucet.
Right. Super efficient.
Right.
You love them.
Yep.
Although we know what the pushback is from customers. The first thing is, it's a lot of money to
It's
put it in.
more expensive. It's stainless steel and copper. There's more to it on the inside.
Initially.
Correct. And then many times a plumber will say, well, you don't want that, because it's easier to just sort of pop it in, because guess what? You need a bigger gas line. You got to vent it a different way. You can't go into the chimney because it's so efficient. But it is going to last for 20 and 30 years typically with proper maintenance and without really hard water.
And then the second complaint we hear is that because there isn't a tank with water that's warm, ready to go, when you use this, you've got to wait for the cold water to come out of the tubes, the pipes, and then you get the hot water.
Right. It's called the cold water sandwich, because from here out to the hot water faucet is that pipe that's sitting all day, so you have to empty it. So it works against you if you have the pipe feeding it too big because it takes longer to empty it. And if you have a really big house, it might give you, people will complain. But if you've got the right size house with a reasonable draw, the nice thing about these things is you can go into and take a shower, and you can keep it on all day long. You can keep up with your teenage children.
I think they're testing it right now. As a matter of, oh yeah, no, the sun is up, so they're still showering.
All right, so this is a gas-fired one, all different sizes. And what they've done recently is they've come out with these units that are more Americanized, so to speak. When you first came into the market, that you could get 2.5 gallons per minute, and that just wasn't enough for people. And now with these, it'll mix hotter water with cold water in the unit and give you 4, 5, and 6 gallons per minute, much like these tanks.
Supersize it.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so gas, and then we know
There's also an electric one. This is an electric one that we're actually using here. And we're using that exactly as we should for episodic use, for a single sink and stuff like that. But I don't see it as a viable, for the same reason that the electric element wasn't necessarily the best way. Okay, but it'll work. It'll be fun.
Good to know it exists if,
Yeah,
if the
absolutely.
electric works.
Right.
Okay, so that takes us into this beauty right here.
Right.
And I love this.
So this is called an indirect. Indirect, by its very name, it doesn't have a direct flame or a direct element in it. It gets its heat from somewhere else.
Right.
So this really comes to us from Europe, where most of the houses in Western Europe, at least, are heated by hot water heating boilers. You know, they have radiant and radiators. And so this becomes just one more zone. The boiler comes on when it's needed. Heated water goes through this coil. This coil has boiler water in it. The stored volume of water in the tank is potable water, or water for the faucet.
So they never touch.
That's right. And so now you've got no dip tube. The cold water comes in and you can just get almost unlimited hot water if you size this the right way.
No dip tube, but also, I mean, look at the size of this insulation, right?
Right.
There's no flue here
That's
either,
right.
which means this insulation is all around this.
Right. So unlike the tank type water heaters here, it's a nice thermos bottle that sort of holds the heat in.
Right. So the takeaway for me isn't that one of these necessarily wins, right? That depends on your circumstances.
Right.
It's more that if you're a couple years into your water heater, it's probably going to fail. So get ahead of the next decision using this information.
Right. And remember that hot water heating is probably 20% of your utility bill. It's not something to sneeze at.
Not insignificant. All right, good information. Thank you. And can you reinstall that? Because
Yeah, I'll go get it.
no
I'll
one
get
can
on
wash
it.
their hands.
I'll get on it.
Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.